Daf Yomi, Tractate Shavuos, Daf Beis Amud Beis. Daf Hey, Daf 5 Amud Beis. So let's take that again. Daf Yomi, Tractate Shavuos, Daf Hey Amud Beis, top of the page with the words it's not. Okay. Hamoitz mishus v'shus chayov, mi lo yaskinon dekoma elo yole, bekokolele hoitzo. It is, as we learned in the Mishnah in Shabbat 73a, one who carries out an item from one domain to another domain is liable. The Gemara claims, are we not also dealing with a case where he is bringing it in from a public domain to a private domain, and nevertheless the Mishnah refers to it as carrying out? V'dirimo komapik mirshus hayochid rshus rabim. Im kein ist der Moitz im Rishus Yochid Rabim, my Rishus der Rishus, der Felo Rishus Rabim Rishus Yochid. The Gemara questions this assertion, but perhaps the Mishnah is dealing with a case of carrying out an item from a private domain to a public domain. The Gemara defends its claim. If so, let it instead teach one who carries out an item from a private domain to a public domain is liable. What is the reason it used the more generalized formulation from one domain to another domain? To teach that one is liable even if one transfers an item from a public domain to a private domain. The Gemara explains further, even though the Mishnah addresses carrying an item in from a public domain to a private domain, it refers to it as carrying out. The Gemara explains, what is the reason for this? The Tana refers to any act that involves removal of an item from its place as carrying out. Accordingly, the term can appropriately be used even when an item is brought in to a private domain from a public domain. Yetzirah Shabbat 2.4 בפנים, 2.4 בחוץ. Ravina said the language of the Mishnah in Tractate Shabbat is also precise and indicates, as it teaches, with regard to acts of carrying out, yitziot, that are prohibited on Shabbat. There are primarily two basic actions that are four cases from the perspective of a person inside a private domain, and two basic actions that are four cases from the perspective of a person outside in a public domain. And then, immediately, in continuation of that Mishnah, it explicates the cases of bringing in an item. Conclude from it that the term carrying out is also used to refer to bringing in an item. Rava said, one cannot make any inference from the language of the Mishnah, as it is not referring to acts of carrying out, rather it teaches domains. In other words, it means with regard to the domains of Shabbat, there are two types, the existence of which lead to four types of prohibited transfers, two with regard to carrying out, and two with regard to bringing in. I think it's just semantics here. For me, that's all. But anyway, maybe not, but it's not carrying, it's just domains, but you're transferring from domain to domain, which is carrying. Okay. Maybe I'm not getting something. Okay, anyway, Maros, Negoyim Shnayim Shinalba, Tanan also marks Negoyim Shnayim Shinalba, the Heres Azakashelik. The Mishnah teaches with regard to different shades of leprous marks, there are two types, there are actually four. We learned in Mishnah there, in the Gaim 1.1, with regard to different shades of leprous marks, there are two types that are actually four. The Baheret mentioned in the Torah, see Leviticus 13.2, is considered a primary mark. It is an intense white, like snow. Secondary to it, meaning a subcategory of it, is a mark that is white like the lime plaster of the sanctuary walls. Se'eit. Ketzemer lavon shnielo. Kekrum beis. The Mishnah continues the Se'eit mentioned in the Torah is considered a primary mark. It is like white wool. Secondary to it is a mark that is white like the membrane of an egg. The ordering of different shades is relevant in determining which shades can be combined together. In order for a leprous mark to be halachically significant, it must at least be the size of a split Sicilian bean, or a geris. If a mark is that size, but it is composed of different shades of white, none of which is alone the size of a geris, then if the different shades are compatible, they can combine together and will thereby render the person ritually impure. Amar Rabbi Chanino, man tanamar shnegoim, deloik Rabbi Akiva, dik Rabbi Akiva. Kevan amar zo lemala mizo, vezo lemala mizo, im ken diak tasid hechad mitzareh. Rabbi Chanina said, who is the Tana who taught this Mishnah, which delineates the different shades of leprous marks into two groups? It is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, as if it were in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, one would be presented with a difficulty. Since with regard to which shades can combine together, Rabbi Akiva says the different shades should be ordered this one above this one, and that one above that one, meaning according to their degrees of brightness, from the most bright to the darkest shade, as follows. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, no. Snow White, meaning Baheret. Wool White is Se'eit, lime, and then an egg membrane. And only two adjacent shades can combine together. But if so, you have rendered pure a mark that is white like the lime plaster of the sanctuary walls, and is smaller than a geris, as it cannot be combined with any other shade of white. The Gemara explains, with which other shade could we combine the lime-colored mark? We cannot say, let us combine it together with the Snow White Baheret, which is the primary mark relative to a lime-colored mark, as there is a wool white Se'eit, which is a more bright white than a lime-colored mark, but less bright than Snow White. Since Baheret is not adjacent to lime, it cannot combine with it. We cannot say, let us combine it together with a Se'eit, as a lime-colored mark is not its secondary mark, and a primary mark can combine only with its secondary mark. This is difficult because the Mishnah's categorization of a lime-colored mark as a secondary mark indicates that it can be combined with another shade of white. Perforce, the Mishnah is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. Ihachi kerum beitzanami v'hadema litzovei litzovei v'hadesis ikasid yadif minei litzovei v'hadesid lav bal minehu. The Gemara asks, if that is so, that Rabbi Akiva holds that only adjacent shades of white can combine together, why didn't Rabbi Chanina also bring proof from a mark that is white like the membrane of an egg, as with which other shade could we combine it? We cannot say let us combine it together with a wool white Se'eit, which is a primary mark relative to an egg membrane colored mark, as there is a lime colored mark, which is a more bright white than an egg membrane colored mark, but less bright than wool white. Since Se'eit is not adjacent to egg membrane, it cannot combine with it. We cannot say, let us combine it together with a lime-colored mark, as it is not its type, meaning they are not the same category, and so they do not combine.